lavished her with silver and gold that she then used for Baal. She didn't know. Why didn't she know this? Well, there are as many answers to that question as there are those who try to answer it. But I wonder, whose responsibility is it to tell her? Was it Hosea? Was it her parents? The community? We know that God's word is written on our hearts. It's in our very DNA because we are made like God, right? In God's image. But when we're not in communication with God, prayer, meditation, etc., we search for a source and latch on to whatever or whoever provides at least some measure of what we think that we need, and maybe lose a bit of ourselves in the process because we don't go to the source. Gomer was loved by a man who loved her. Why does she not trust his love for her? Do you find it difficult to trust the love of people around you, your spouse, your friends? Accepting love by letting others be loved. Accepting love by extending it to others, we find difficult to love. That's usually where the rub is, right? The voice of the day, Sojourners magazine gives a quote for the day, and I love them. And last week there was one by Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. He said, "We live in a world in which we need to share responsibility. It's easy to say, it's not my child, not my community, not my world, not my problem. Then there are those who see the need and respond. I consider those people my heroes." We see the need, we see those who need love, and we hope that somebody else takes care of it. I do that. I don't want to put anything on. I see y'all do beautiful things, but I wonder if sometimes it can be easier just to say, I think somebody else might take care of that. Whose responsibility is it? So I'm working on a new project, writing a theology of non-gender identity and covenanting together through a queer theology lens and with liberation theology framework, for which I'm gathering qualitative data via focus groups, electronic survey, and interviews. This qualitative narrative research is going to be part of this project. So I'm getting together with groups of people who are, I feel, on the outside, but also just people, they're not wanting to gather in community, and particularly in a church building, but are wanting to connect with God, with who they are. Yeah. So I'm putting this all on the website too, if you're interested in looking at it, and maybe if you know, if you want to check out the survey that I'm doing, and might find somebody that you would like to share it with, I would be grateful. But I just want you to be aware of what I'm doing, and I'm going to be drawing on a lot of the research that I'm doing in this. But I wonder if there might have been a reaction when I said queer theology. I don't know where y'all stand or whatever, but just as there might have been a flinch when we first heard the Hosea reading of the word whoredom, because I do every time I read it. What gives some words power? Why do they carry such weight in some instances and skepticism in others? We don't trust the words that somebody says. what makes these words special? So to make my point, and I do have one, so please trust that, I'd like to explain queer theology and queering as a method, because I think it's important to know this. Actually, I'm latching onto an intriguing approach that crosses theology inquiry with quantum physics. And again, bear with me, okay? I'm going to go through, throw out some words, but they will guide us to this point that I'm trying to make. So ontology is the study, the attempt to understand the nature of being. So we want to understand who we are, what it means to exist. And one physicist envisions the study of the nature of being as entangled, which is a physics term, with epistemology, which is a good theological term. The process of attempting to ascertain knowledge itself. Substantiated belief versus just opinion, what we believe. Epistemology speaks to a belief system that is based on reasoned faith, but still remains a mystery because it's faith, right? So Nicole likens his crossover of investigating these faith claims and studying the nature of being as quantum entanglement. So when we study the universe, that's one of the things we're doing, the nature of being, why does it exist as it does. So quantum physics presupposes that on the quantum level, the tiniest bit that we can never see, the human brain cannot really fathom the particulars. Who really actually understands particles and whatnot? I think the mathematicians and physicists are just pretending just because they know the math, but I could be wrong. But they systematically look at it by observing the effects of it, the action. This principle is not unlike theological study. The human brain is unable to fathom the mysteries of God and God's action in and on creation, but we can know something of God by the effects of God. God's being, God's dwelling, the fruits of the Spirit, love, when we love each other, and have joy and make peace. This is the effects of God's presence, and we can understand who God is. So quantum physics speaks about the spooky action, that was Einstein, which is so great, of particles and entanglement, how the flavors of electrons shift and dance and can somehow be in two places at once and comprise more than one substance. Theology speaks of Trinity and the Creator who creates, the Word through whom all things were made, and the Spirit that Jesus leaves with us. And these three are actually one. And while one is doing a thing, it is also doing another in a separate time and space. It's a mystery.